God here. And it's football season. And it's like 100 degrees outside. Sorry about that. Welcome to Season 3 of Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoiseths and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 15 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoiseths over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California. And Brad, you might not know this, but we are really the only NFL prediction show in the entire world that would have the nerve to put Trevor Lawrence on their YouTube thumbnail instead of Dak Prescott.
Well, you know, there might be a couple other guys as the season goes on that might make it on there. You know, hey, I've been riding the hot hand of Jared Goff and the Lions here recently on my fantasy football team. You know who else I just picked up this week, Dave? I picked up Desmond Ridder of the Atlanta Falcons just as I want to see how the guy does. He had quite a good, preseason, and then they never really played him, and now Mariota's out for the season. So just a shot in the dark. I've had kind of quarterback problems all season long, and I finally have kind of found something with Jared Goff. And I see you got your number one Viking fan in the background there of you. Coming up on the holidays, he looks like you got plenty of Viking spirit going on there, Dave. But unfortunately, you have more Viking spirit than the Viking defense did last week when they got whacked by the Lions. I sent you plenty of text messages on that. The Lions are probably playing the best football in the NFC North right now. I would say they probably are, no question about it. And they looked like a better team last week than the Vikings did, did they not?
Yeah. This is what I was calling it earlier in the week: false hope. That's exactly what the Vikings team as a whole, and definitely the defense, have done with most of us, Minnesota Viking fans. It's just absolute false hope. Your word was fraud, if I remember correctly, and That is like it's not like a white collar crime with the bad defense that they're playing, but it's just so frustrating to watch, and it's one of those things that's also hard to change up in the middle of the season. You can make offensive adjustments. You know, you can go from being a passing team to a running team if you wanted to, in a couple weeks. But you can't go from a 3-4 defense back to a traditional 4-3 defense overnight. And they just like my joke this week. I was talking to somebody else, and my joke was like, it's like literally they have people that they've hired off the street to be in their secondary at this point. I didn't see any of these guys in training camp. I have no idea where half of that secondary came from. It's just brutal. And so, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going anywhere.
No, I feel the same way. And I'll even take it one step further. You said you can't go from a 4-3 to a 3-4 or vice versa. I don't think you can go from a bad defense to a good defense. I mean, I'll just put it out there plainly. That's a bad defense. There's just not a lot there. Every once in a while you'll see a play from the linebackers, and Patrick Peterson early on in the season looked pretty good, and then he got hobbled, and they were kind of keeping things together with bubble gum and rubber bands. Some older guys back there, and Harrison Smith's older, and clearly that's something that they're going to have to pay attention to during the offseason when it comes to the draft next year. I'm not a believer in Kirk Cousins. We've made that's well established. And so
really, you don't believe in Kirk Cousins?
No, I really don't.
There really aren't too many people outside of his family that I think are real, like, Kirk Cousin believers. In it, like, he's an okay quarterback. He's in that top part of tier 3 quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Tier 3. He's right there with Derek Carr and some of those guys. Ryan Tannehill might be the hair ahead of him or behind him at any given week. But they're guys that they look good in spurts, and then they always seem to let you down.
Hey, I want to come to Kirk Cousins' defense just for a second. You can't compare him to Ryan Tannehill. Ryan, that's just wrong. I mean, at least Cousins, statistically can throw for big numbers. Tannehill
Give it another week or two, Dave. Give it another week or two. You'll come around on that. Hey, one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into this things is we never got into we've been kind of off and on here the last few weeks. You've been out of town, and then previous to that you had COVID, and I was up in Sacramento and all that kind of stuff. But there's been so many things that have happened. The quarterback change in San Francisco due to the Garoppolo injury. But the one I really liked this week was Deion Sanders taking over as the head coach at the University of Colorado, and everybody keeps asking me, how's that going to work out? How's that going to work out? And I said, look, as long as Deion Sanders can sing a song for the college, he's going to be fine because he's going to be able to get players. But that's going to be the big transition for him is, when you're at Jackson State, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can wear your own gear. You can create all the publicity you want because they're not used to getting publicity, right? Now that you're in Colorado, they're going to say, no, sir, you have to wear this hat and you have to wear that sweatshirt on that day. And the question is, will he be able to make that transition from Jackson State to what's now a Power 5 school? But it is an intriguing move. I really look forward to it. Colorado's been a mess for a long time.
Yeah, they've been a mess since Joel Klatt left at QB. I was super excited. Honestly, I thought he could have done. I mean, if somebody can go from ESPN to being a head coach in the National Football League, overnight, in Jeff Saturday, with what Deion has pulled off so far at the small school he was at, I was thinking, I'm glad he's in. He at least got into a Pac-12. What do we call it? Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-12.
I don't know what's it going to be after USC and UCLA leaves. I mean, is that?
Yeah, it's I'm renaming it because, as you know, I'm a marketing guy. I'm calling it the Pac Unknown Conference, and he's going to be one of the stars at the Pac Unknown Conference. He literally went to a basketball game. I don't know if you saw this, but went to a basketball game at Colorado and got a standing O in the middle of the game. And what I'm really sort of curious about is how soon will it be before we see Deion in his next Aflac commercial with of course the greatest or one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Nick Saban. So that's got to be right around the corner. And will they let him wear something related to that Pac Unknown school in Colorado? That's just a great college campus. It's a great college atmosphere up there. I think he'll do a really good job of recruiting. I don't think he'll be there more than 5 years, maybe 3, before he has a chance to go up to the NFL. I think he's that good.
Let's roll into this thing here. We got plenty of NFL games this week. We are in week 15, and I'm going to go to one of your favorite football teams right away here, and that is the Detroit Lions. They're playing at the New York Football Jets, Dave. Oh. Boy, now this is two teams that I know you love to love, right? And the Lions are on the road in New York. The Jets in the Meadowlands are a 1-point favorite, Dave. And, there's not a hotter team in football right now than the Lions. There really isn't. No, and you know what's amazing about the Lions is they're playing some defense. And so it's like the perfect I think the Lions are going to make the playoffs, Dave. I really do. You heard it here first. I think they're going to continue to win, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. And the Jets are kind of, they're kind of wobbling right now. They're like the boxer that's on the ropes. And so it's a big game. I'm taking the Jets on the road, I'm taking the Lions rather on the road and taking the point.
Can you name 5 players on the defense?
No. I can barely name 5 on the offense, Dave.
Yeah. I was like, sorry, Brad, Jared Goff doesn't play defense. Yeah, I was like, we have these sheets that we put together as we've said before, and I went ahead and this was a game where I put both the Jets and the Lions as the team that I thought was going to win. I'm predicting tie in this one. Yeah, I'm so a couple things. I would love to see the Lions actually make the playoffs. Yeah, it's such a great story. Started off so slow. Got the vote of confidence from the ownership group, which is generally the seal of death, as we know. The second that happens, you're usually done. Yeah, it's time to go brush up your cover letter and your resume and get that ready to go. So, this is great. I'd love to see Detroit win this game, but I am going to go with the Jets. That the Jets defense is probably one of the top 5 or 6 defenses in the NFL week in and week out. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I think it's going to be cold. They're not, the little Lions are not going to be indoors in the quiet serenity of their stadium, which is generally what you used to say when you talk about the Detroit Lions football home, because like they barely ever sold out and all that. So while I'm totally on the Lions bandwagon and I would like to see them win, I think this game means way more to the Jets at this point. And the Jets are not, that defense is not going to allow them to lose this game. The Jets defense might actually score more points than the Jets offense in this game. So I'm going with the Jets.
Boy, how many more wins Dave in a row is going to take those Lions to get you on board? I mean, it's they look pretty good. I mean, I'm just saying you could make a case that over the last 7 weeks, the Lions have been one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFC.
Yeah, that's I mean, you got to give it to the Eagles, and you got to give it to the 49ers, organization. And then, who else is there in the NFC worth talking about?
Well, you got the Cowboys, and they have their moments, and then they shut down, and they turn into the Cowboys. But I think it's clearly an Eagles conference. I think the Eagles are clearly the best team in football right now. But the Lions are at least making things interesting. They're making things interesting.
They definitely are making things interesting. All right. For my first game of the week, speaking of the Cowboys, we got the Cowboys going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. 4.5 points is the spread in this one. I have been it's like these young quarterbacks kill me. They just absolutely kill me. I'll tell you what I think of Brock Purdy later. But up and down Tua, up and down Trevor Lawrence. He suddenly looks like, the Trevor Lawrence we thought we were going to get when he came out of college. The Jacksonville Jaguars are definitely playing a better breed of football. When I sort of look at this game, I look at it from a couple different angles. One is, will this Jacksonville Jaguar, offense be as productive as it was last week? And the answer is no, they won't. But is the Jacksonville Jaguar offense and defense considerably better than what they're doing down in Texas? Look, I was in Texas last week, and nobody at any point was predicting a Texans lead going into the fourth quarter, let alone the last minute and a half of that game. So will the Cowboys for back-to-back weeks sort of overlook who their opponent is? And to some degree, I'm going to say yes. As much as I think the Cowboys are going to win this game, but I'm not going to give up the points. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And for God's sakes, Will the Cowboys please listen to what people are telling them to do? Like, if they want to be a successful NFL team that has a chance of going to the Super Bowl, it's pretty obvious what they should do on the offensive side of the ball. Go run first, go play action. It's, NFL 101 stuff. And they lost another offensive lineman last week. They've got to figure out how to be a run first team and pass third team if they're going to go anywhere in the playoffs this year.
Well, to revisit another conversation we just got done, is Dak Prescott a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins?
I think we would think he's like a better leader than Kirk Cousins. Dak Prescott's such a great guy. I mean, he gets up, he does the press conferences, he does all this stuff off the field. Cousins is not to say that Cousins isn't a good guy, but if I had to start a franchise, I'd rather have Dak at the front, at least Dak from a couple years ago when he was still throwing a tight spiral. It's been at times he's had Tom Brady like throws in the last couple of weeks where the ball's been a little wobbly since he came back from his injury.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he seems to be consistently inconsistent, if that makes any sense. And
yeah,
but I'm going to take the Cowboys in this game. They're giving up 4.5. You mentioned it in the first game. This is a way bigger game for Dallas than it is for Jacksonville. It's down in Jacksonville, so I don't think there's going to be a huge lot of weather problems down there. I like what Doug Peterson's doing there. I think they're on the mend. They're headed in the right direction. I still think that the quarterback is a little inconsistent. I think Dallas is going to cause some problems for him, make him throw some balls into coverage. There's going to be some turnovers there. And Dallas has a tendency, they're such an emotional squad, it seems like. If they get up in front of you, they just pound you. And if you make it close and kind of get on their nerves, they tend to choke a little bit. So I think it's a pace game. I think the Cowboys get out. I think they win it comfortably. I'm going to give the 4.5.
The big difference between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders this year? This is one of my favorites. Zay Jones has been playing like you're into fantasy football. Zay Jones, every other week has been nearly a home run. So, look, like I said, I think that the Cowboys are actually ultimately going to win this. But I'll take the points and go with the Jags in this one.
All right, my next one up is a game that, again, another team from the NFC North. I think I took all the North games, or some of them. The Rams are at the Packers, and the Packers are a 7-point favorite, which I found to be a little bit rich, but I just think the Rams. I don't know what to make of the Baker Mayfield thing. To me, it was great. It was great drama. But Baker Mayfield's always been great drama, right? I mean, he's been drama since the day he come out of college. And so, they're going to the Packers. I still am not a believer the Rams have anything there. The Packers are desperate for a win if they're going to remain in any type of playoff hunt. I know 7 seems a little much, and I think it is a little much, but I'm going to take the Packers. They've had a week off to think about it. And so I really like the new connection between Rodgers and Christian Watson. Watson, right. And so what's that?
Come here.
Yeah. And so I'm going to take the Packers, and I'm going to give the 7. I saw it, and initially I thought, wow, they're favored by 7? Really? The Packers aren't very good this year. But then I remembered the Rams are terrible. So I think if the Packers get out in front, I don't think the Rams have anything to make a comeback.
Yeah, the whole Baker Mayfield thing was hilarious. It's like, has Baker Mayfield suddenly turned his career around? And it was like he was terrible for the whole game except for the end of the game. And like these teams go into prevent defense. When are they going to learn to not go into prevent defense? When is like a defensive coordinator going to go, like I've looked at all the analytics. We live in the era of analytics, right? when are they going to look at it and say prevent defense actually allows, like the Minnesota Viking defense is literally a prevent defense. It allows the other teams to score. So I don't know what that was, but it was a nice story, and I wish Baker well, and he hasn't, I've heard all this stuff about how he hasn't had a real coach and all this stuff, but last time I checked, Kevin Stefanski made Kirk Cousins a lot of money, didn't he? Along the way. So I think in this particular game, I'm with you. I hate how many points it is, and that's where I struggle a little bit, especially because we've seen how sluggish this Green Bay Packer offense has been. So that's where my concern is. But I mean, the Rams offense has been extraordinarily sluggish as well. This is like two snails in a race. So I'm going to go with the Packers in this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're giving me the option between Aaron Rodgers and a young wide receiver crew, and Baker Mayfield and a young wide receiver crew, and being there 9 days, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers every day of the week. I mean, there's an element of Baker Mayfield that is kind of fun to watch. I mean, let's face it, there is a part of watching games that he plays in where it's entertaining. But then if you're a fan of his team, there's also a part of it that can be very frustrating at times. Again, he's another one of these guys that's just incredibly inconsistent. The Packers, I believe, need this game very badly. And I think the Rams they'll go in there and they'll lay an egg.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers secretly is sitting there going, what if I run the table? You think, and you're right, Watson's like really sort of come into his own since he dropped that pass early in the season and went into Aaron Rodgers, doghouse for like a month. I like him a lot. I still like the running game. Their line hasn't been as strong as it has been in years past, injuries, etc. Defense isn't what we thought it was going to be. But Baker is definitely highly entertaining to watch. I just wish somebody would tell Baker, there's a reason in youth soccer that they took out headers. Like they don't allow the kids anymore, Brad. I don't know if you know this, but to actually use their heads in youth soccer, like you can't when you're young, you can't do a header. So watching the craziness of Baker Mayfield taking his head and headbutting players on his team who still have their helmets on is crazy. Like there's something loose up there for sure, but definitely entertaining to watch. All right, moving on. Hey, this game should be like extraordinarily easy for us to talk about. This is Saturday's first game of the weekend. Colts at the Vikings. Vikes are favored by only 4. So since they're favored by only 4, I'm not sure if Harrison Smith is back or not, but I've got to believe this is a team that should be able to take care of the Colts fairly easily. I'll remind you, Brad, on the hope that you're going to flip-flop here. I'll make the argument that, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs earlier in the year did lose to this Indianapolis Colts team. This Indianapolis Colts team at the start of the year was actually favored to win their division. So, maybe there's still some of those expectations in that locker room with Jeff Saturday, whose chair at ESPN, I think, is being left open for a return in the offseason. That being said, I'm definitely going with the Vikes.
Well, hey, maybe I can get you to change your mind. Have you seen the Vikings run defense, Dave?
Yeah.
Is Jonathan Taylor healthy? I mean, look, I have zero faith in this Viking defense stopping anyone. I really do. And the Colts don't have that bad of a defense. I mean, I'm not a big Colt fan. And I'm not going to jump on the Colt bandwagon. I think the whole Saturday thing is a trivial nightmare. But it is a 4-point game. The Vikings haven't won many games by more than 4, might I add, even though they're 10-3.
Yeah.
I think it's a tight game. I really do. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to take the Vikings, but I got to tell you, I'm not as confident as you are. The Colts, if they can run the ball, that puts Cousins behind the 8 ball, and the pressure starts to ratchet up. If you lose back-to-back weeks to the Lions and the Colts, Dave, I could see a slide coming on, like the slide in Golden Gate Park there, Dave, which my kids used to slide on,
So it just makes no sense to me when your defensive coordinator comes out and says, it's okay that we give up a lot of yards. It's like their whole thing is like, we're going to be really good in the red zone on defense. Well, we'll give up the other 80 yards. It's okay. Middle of the field's all yours. So this game's a little bit more predictable because they're going to be able to play run defense versus Jared Goff, who was, I can't believe I'm going to say this, was slinging the ball around the yard. And, Marin Catholic's very own Jared Goff has proved to be much better than San Clemente Sam Darnold, hasn't he? But Darnold did win, I think, last week. So
Sam Darnold looked pretty good last weekend, Dave.
And that division is so bad that the Panthers are still have a legitimate chance to win it.
Hey, there's 2 bad divisions this year. Everybody's talking about that division being terrible, but there's also one other terrible division, isn't there? I mean, trying to think, there's another division where there's only one team above 500.
Well, yeah, the AFC West, which was supposed to be the greatest division of all time, has proven, not to be.
How about Tennessee's division? Tennessee, I think, is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah, the Titans are 7-8, and that's with the Jags and the Colts.
That's a bad division as well. All right, well, let's move on to my next game here. I guess we both took the Vikings there. This one, there will be very few people watching, but it's the Falcons at the Saints. Speaking of that NFC South or whatever it's called, the Saints are a 4-point favorite, which I think the Saints are a bad football team, Dave. I just do. I've been saying it all year long. The personnel's terrible. They just think, I know you don't like the coach there at all. And I just think there's a level of unpredictability this week with the Falcons having Desmond Ridder in there at quarterback. And I think that unpredictability leads to a win for the Falcons. Are a 4-point dog. I think the Falcons are going to win this game outright, Dave.
Look, I want to be nice to Dennis L, and maybe he has got a good Thanksgiving spread, and I'll get invited over someday for it. I think he's a really excellent defensive coordinator. But when I heard they were going to give him the head coaching gig, I was like, it's just not who he is. I mean, it just isn't. Yeah, there are people in Hollywood who can be a leading man or woman in a movie, and there are other people that are just better in supporting cast roles.
He is who we thought he was, right?
He absolutely is. So, I'm not surprised, where the Saints are. At times, they've looked okay, and they played, fairly well when they were pretty healthy. But Andy Dalton, I mean, come on, it's like. And the Falcons, it's also I thought they'd play a little bit better than they did. I thought, I like Arthur Smith a lot. I thought he should have made the move at quarterback a month ago. because it was obvious, Mariota was heading in the wrong direction. So, my concern is that, they see the kid that they're bringing in, every day in practice. And, the concern I have is there's a reason they didn't move quicker on it. So I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see on it. But I'm going to agree with you and take the Falcons in this one. Less about the Falcons, more about how bad I think the Saints are.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not in love with either one of these teams. I'm not in love with either one of these organizations. But I just think that the Saints, I think they're nearing the end of a lot of eras there, and it's time to really turn the page and start focusing on the draft and picking up some better, younger, talented players. I mean, Chris Olave is a nice little thing there, but the quarterback situation is an absolute disaster, and the defense is now starting to get long in the tooth.
Look, if Sean Payton was still there, what do you think their record would be?
I know they might have a couple more wins, but, I'm not a big fan of the coaching staff either there with Dennis Allen, but there's only so much you can do. There's just not a lot of talent offensively, outside of Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, who's lost a half a step. That used to be an organization that had one of the best offensive lines in football, and it's just not there anymore. When you're messing around with the quarterback, who's kind of a quarterback, kind of a tight end, kind of a 4 or 5 trick pony, a kid out of BYU. To me, every time I see him score a touchdown, I go, really? They're still doing that? And it's still fooling people? I mean, I don't know. I just think New Orleans needs to turn the page big time.
A 4 or 5 trick pony, that would get expensive. I'm just saying. Okay. Eagles and the Chicago Bears. Eagles are favored by 9. I think anybody that unless this is a weather issue, but last time I checked, the Eagles play outdoors. Unless this turns into the fog bowl or snow bowl or as long as the weather's not too big of a factor. I'm not talking about cold. I've got the Eagles easily winning this game. It's a 9-point spread, which of course is high. It's in Chicago. You can make it's a battle of similar style quarterbacks, I guess. Though I think Jalen Hurts is here for the long run. I really think 6-7 years from now, Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks still in the NFL. So he might not always have the biggest stats, but he's an excellent like Dak Prescott in his press conferences. And Dak Prescott in the early years in Dallas, I think he's like an excellent leader on and off the field. Really like Hurts, like that offensive line. Big fan of their defense, and they've got 2 of the best wide receivers. One of the best wide receiver tandems, probably one of the top 4 or 5 wide receiver tandems in the NFL. And Sanders is a pretty good running back, and he got Kelsey blocking up front. It's just the team is loaded. I just don't see Chicago competing in any real way in this one. I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, I had originally picked the Bears to beat that line, and I've kind of flipped on that now. I don't know what I was thinking, frankly. I mean,
I was so excited when I saw that.
No, I've changed it, Dave. I mean, the Bears, I think they're headed in the right direction. I just think it's going to take a long time to get. They were so far down that, they got a long ways. They got a long climb, and I like their young quarterback. He makes some really exciting plays. I've seen him make some strides here in the last 5-6 games. He's had some pretty good moments, but the Eagles are the real thing. 9, I don't think it's a radical number, really. I mean, we're going to get some bigger numbers as this show goes on. So yeah, I'm going to change. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think that I feel pretty comfortable that those guys are going to go into Chicago and get a win, because they're got to be getting pretty close to locking up some pretty big spots. You want that home field advantage thing, because that means there's only one of those that get a week off now, and so the Eagles are getting pretty close, and it would seem like a good opportunity to go in there and just run roughshod on the Bears and get closer to that number.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, like I like, for the most part, what Chicago is planning on doing. I do like, their head coach. Obviously, like the quarterback, and when the running backs are healthy, they're definitely interesting. So, it could be. I could see this game actually being a little closer than we think it's going to be, before it turns into the blowout it's going to end up with.
All right. One of my games I have this week is, kind of quickly becoming a big game in the NFC East, and that's the Giants at Washington, the Commanders. I was a little surprised to see Washington be a 4.5-point favorite. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the Giants were considered one of the Cinderella teams, and now they've kind of taken a couple steps backwards, and Washington appears to be playing okay football. Here's the reality, Dave. I don't think either one of these teams is really very good. I think they're exactly where they should be right now, but I don't think Washington's a 4.5-point better football team than the Giants. I really don't. And they turn the ball over way too many times. It should be a defensive struggle. I don't see either one of these teams getting anywhere out of the mid-20s at the very hot tops. I think it's entirely possible both of them end up in the teens. So 4.5 I thought was a little bit much. I'm going to take the Giants in the 4.5. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington won the game, but I'm going to take the 4.5.
Yeah, one of my favorite things I saw all week was, like when you look up the NFL standings on Google, and it gives you the list and everything, and then it tells you how many games they've won in a row or lost in a row, and for the Commanders it said 0. And I was like, wow, why does it say 0? And I was like, they had a tie. I never noticed that. Like they that's how they treat that. Look, Taylor Heineke, the defense is playing better. You throw the records out for a second. The last 3 or 4 weeks, the Commanders have definitely been a significantly better football team than the Giants. That's how I sort of am looking at this one. I'm not looking at the entire work of art. I'm just looking at what was done to finish it up, and so I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I could see the Commanders. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I could see the Commanders winning by a touchdown. I'm not saying one with an extra point, but 6 points. I could see them winning by 6 points. So the Commander, something's not right with the Giants right now. To some respect, similar to the Vikings. It's just that they're a bit of a fraud as well as the Vikings. And that's like I think the Jets are the far better team in New York right now than the Giants.
Well, that I would agree with. But the question is who's better between the Giants and the Commanders? and so, look, they just played to a tie 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
In a game where it looked like they could have kept playing for another month and a half and nobody would have scored. I mean, I just feel like this is a tight ball game. The Giants, they can't afford to really have lay another egg. 4.5 was just a little rich for my blood.
Yeah, I can see the Giants finishing the season with one more win, and that's it. And that would be considered a highly successful year for new head coach Brian Daboll. But I think we would look at it in a different way and say it was actually a disappointment. Considering the start they got off to. I think it also shows that the weakness of the Giants organization as a whole for not sort of shoring up the team when they had a chance at the trading deadline. Anyways, okay, moving on. Let's see here, Mr. Hoiseths. I've got the Titans at the Chargers. A game that I know you are probably just like super excited about because you are such a big fan of the Chargers head coach. Chargers are favored by 3. This Titans team, I don't know what to say. Like half of the time I'm like, they're horrible. The other half of the time they play really well. And I suddenly think they're potentially, contenders. They are leading their division. But they're on one of those slides right now. They also canned their general manager in the middle of the season, like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this. Like they canned him. Something is just not right. The offense is terrible outside of Derrick Henry. And I would think, the Chargers got their wide receivers back, but I'll say this: Keenan Allen, he's still hurt. He is, he's lost a couple steps too. He's running good routes. He's going to play, but he still looks hurt. But I got the Chargers in this. This was an easy one for me.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, but I don't think it's an easy one in any way. I mean, these two teams are both really inconsistent. Just when you think the Chargers are playing better football, they'll remind you that their coach isn't very good. And, just when the Titans you count them out, Vrabel seems to come up with some kind of great performance. And so,
yeah,
I don't think either one of these teams is going to go anywhere. The Chargers, yeah, they've got some weapons back, and I think they're better. We've talked earlier in the season about the sticks mover and how important that is and critical that is to an offense. And Keenan Allen is that guy for the Chargers, and he appears to be kind of starting working his way into healthy situation there. But through it all, I've seen the Chargers develop some other young guys there, whether it's Palmer or DeAndre Carter, and they've kind of come through it. And I think they're a better team as a result of that. Now you look and they got a lot of weapons there now. The question is, will they get any stops? Can they stop Derrick Henry? I think if the Chargers get out front, then it becomes a question of whether or not Brendan Staley can hang on to a lead. I mean, there's just so many questions there when you got a coach that just is always playing the analytics and taking risky chances when you don't need to. To me, you just put yourself in such a costly and a bad position. But for this week, I'm going to agree with you on this. So I'm going to take the Bolts. I'm going to give the 3 at home. I'm going to basically be crossing my fingers the entire time.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say, "Show me your lightning bolt."
Hacksaw Hamilton.
Inward Orange County to outward Orange County, North
Up
County,
down.
San Diego, down to Calabasas. I want to hear from you, San Diego.
I can't get over the fact that they're not in San Diego anymore. I've still never turned the page on that.
They should be in San Diego. I think we both.
Yes.
They belong in San Diego, and I wonder if this is going to be like a thing where at some point 20 years from now they build a new state-of-the-art stadium for them down in San Diego, and they go back. I hate the sharing stadiums thing. It's never sat well with me in both the NFL. It doesn't sit well with me in the NBA as well. I mean, thankfully the Clippers are getting their own arena finally. And the Staples Center is not owned by the Lakers. So, Ballmer's just, got so much money that's clearly the franchise that has more money in Los Angeles now. It just rubs me the wrong way. Like the other night I was watching a Clipper game and they had Clipper signs up all over the place. And the next night the Lakers played, and instead of red, it was yellow now, and it just it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, so does any talk of basketball. That rubs me the wrong way. So let's get into your next pick.
All right. It's your pick, Brad.
Oh, it's my pick. Okay. Yeah. You started talking about the Clippers. I damn near fell asleep, Dave.
I know you did.
Okay, Chiefs are at the Texans. And we talked about a big line. We were talking about the 9-point line with Philadelphia and how it didn't really seem like it was that large of a line considering, who they were playing. The Bears. But now you got the Chiefs at the Texans, and that is a legit line. That's a 14-point line. Chiefs on the road. I watched this Chiefs team, Dave, and, Patrick Mahomes he's just fun to watch. I mean, he just does stuff that nobody else does. But I watched this defense, and they're not very good. The only thing that I'm going to take the Chiefs this week just because Houston is that bad. Only the Texans could, completely fall apart at the end of the game to the Cowboys and choke that thing away. But, the Chiefs just have so much firepower. They have the ability to score in buckets. They can score 14 points in 3 minutes if you give them a chance. And so I'm going to take the Chiefs on the road, given the 14. I'm biting my tongue as I'm doing it because that defense isn't very good in Kansas City. But, I don't have any faith at all whatsoever in the Texans.
Yeah, this was on my potential flip-flop list because it is 14 points. And the Texans, sort of blew it last week in against the Cowboys. But I don't know. I expected more out of Lovie Smith, not a one-win team. They're not a one-win team, but they are a one-win team. And I can't bring myself to do this. I'm gonna just simply agree with you and take the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is, he's the best quarterback in the NFL today. He's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch. I think like you got your Mahomes. You got your Josh Allen, and then your Hurts, and I'm not sure where else you put anybody else. You can't put anybody above those three, I think, at this point. So
how about I got one for you. How about Joe Burrow?
Oh yeah, sorry, Joe Burrow. I would definitely have up there, Mr. Cold as Ice Burrow. I think Burrow might not have the stats that Mahomes has at the end of the day, but he might actually end up winning more Super Bowls than Mahomes. He's that. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cincinnati in the Super Bowl again this year and actually win it this time, as long as it's not against the 49ers.
Well, it would be my preseason prediction, Dave, as I told you it was going to be the 49ers and the Bengals. Did I not?
You did. I went with the I'd have to. I don't remember who I took on the NFC side. Probably the Niners, I would think, but or the Eagles. I think I had the Eagles, Bills. So I'll go back and watch the tape. I went with the other 95% of America that went with the Bills at the start of the season on that one.
Hey, we haven't really talked about the San Francisco quarterback situation. I'm not one of these guys that thinks they're any worse off. I mean, I think Brock Purdy looks pretty good. I never thought Jimmy Garoppolo was a special quarterback. Purdy brings an element of surprise right now. I think defensive coordinators really don't know what to do with him. I think the 49ers are going to go on a run here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. They're playing tonight. They're playing up in Seattle. He has some sort of I think rib injury of some sort. So they've been a little not totally upfront yet. They'll have to make the decision here if he's playing or not in the next half hour, I think. We're recording this on Thursday.
That Niners team just can't stay healthy, and now losing Deebo Samuel. I mean, it just seems like it's one thing after another.
Kyle Shanahan, please. You're destroying the other team. You've got Tom Brady on the run. And why the hell is Deebo Samuel even running the ball? And then if you are going to have him run the ball and it's not like a jet sweep, why are you having him run up the middle? Like Kyle Shanahan, I've said it before. I think he's really a good coach. I don't have him as great. I think he's good. And I think he outthinks himself a lot. And Debo's not, I mean, like running backs can't take the punishment running the ball up the middle, let alone a wide receiver. As for Brock Purdy, we got to slow our roll on this stuff here a little bit. I'm the only person that actually pointed this out. And I watched a bunch of other shows and I'm going to point it out to you now, Brad. In his 2 long touchdown passes, which were really only like 35 yards in the air, he underthrew both of those balls significantly. And it's like, I don't know about his arm yet. I don't know how he's going to react when he throws an interception that actually stands as an interception. I don't know how he's going to handle adversity. That being said, everybody loves him in San Francisco. They're chanting Purdy, Purdy, Purdy. It sounds like birdie, birdie, birdie. So I'm hopeful. I think, just in the first week and a half we've seen him play, it's all promising, but you got to give this stuff some time. I mean, you brought it up, like the defensive coordinators haven't had a chance yet to figure out how to stop them. What do you do once they do that? And that's where we'll know who the real Brock Purdy is, Brad.
Let me ask you this. Let's say Brock Purdy leads the Niners deep into the playoffs. Who's your quarterback next year? They got 3 guys, right? I'm not completely writing off the fact that this kid may be the best of the 3. He might be the best of the 3.
Look, Purdy and his, I'm not, Trey Lance had a couple games where he looked really good too.
A couple minutes. Really?
Yeah, he had a couple minutes of looking really good. So I don't know. If Purdy takes him to the NFC Championship game, I hand the ball over to Purdy. I think he's earned the right until he hasn't. That's how I would look at it. The kid's gutsy, man. He's got something, but somebody once said that about Colt McCoy.
And let me tell you something that he's got, Brock Purdy, that not many guys out there in the league have got. Brock Purdy's got a great defense, and he's got some weapons in Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle still. And that is a very dangerous team. If he can just maintain what's going on there and occasionally throw a ball to Brandon Ayuk, that's a team that could win the Super Bowl. And then we're not even thinking about it. Purdy. I almost called him Turdy. Yeah. Brock Purdy will be the starter next year if that happens.
Yeah, I think he will have earned the right. I mean, he'll absolutely have earned the right. Now, if Jimmy Garoppolo, who might come back before the playoffs would be over. That's been a question that was thrown up in the air, which is, if Jimmy Garoppolo comes back, week 2 of the playoffs, do you play him? And the answer is you stick with Purdy if he got you past week 1. Garoppolo backs him up. So, there's so much we don't know, how durable Purdy's going to be in the long run and all this other stuff. But for a game and a half, I absolutely have to give it to the kid, is even though I'm giving him a hard time about the underthrown touchdown passes. But the fact is they were underthrown. I mean, and that's a big, that's a big deal. Okay. Moving on to our last game of the week, the Pats at the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Pats are the Raiders are actually favored by a point. This is maybe I should have done the over under in this one. So this basically just comes down to who do you think is going to win the game? The Patriots and Matty P is their defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator. And Mac Jones, their quarterback, who's they're not allowing him to throw the ball at all. I saw this a really cool graphic earlier in the week, and it had like Mac Jones's where he passes the ball. So they looked at like the first couple games of the season, and they showed like 30 yards and beyond. How inconsistent he was. They showed how many interceptions he threw and all this other stuff. So then they fast forward to, the last couple weeks, and they're all like 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage throws. they're nothing past like 15 yards. That is, that is the strategy with Mac Jones. Raiders are going to explode, at some point. It's the young, he's not young anymore, but it's, the coach versus his prodigy and all that stuff. I could see the Raiders, offense exploding. I could see the Patriots scoring a lot more points than they normally do. Defense might, go by the wayside. And as long as Josh Jacobs plays and they use him, I'm taking the Raiders.
Yeah, I was going to take the Raiders, and I got a flop on it, Dave. I just, Bill Belichick versus
yeah, I know
versus his former assistant to me is,
and with still a chance of making it to the playoffs too.
The Pats very infrequently lose 2 games in a row. They just very infrequently let that happen. The Raiders are, the perennial, they're just unbelievably inconsistent. It's in Las Vegas, which really doesn't mean much in terms of a home environment. And so I don't have much to say on this. To me, the only thing that's intriguing about this game is the coaching matchup. The football itself is not going to be fun. It's not going to be good football. The Pats, when they win ugly. The Raiders, it's all about Derek Carr. And to me, he's a bottom 10 or 12 quarterback in the league at this point. I just think it's a matter of time before the Raiders give up on him. And so I'm going to take the Pats. I'm going to take that 1 point. I just think in a coin flip, I'm going to take Bill Belichick.
Yeah, the Raider defense at times reminds me of the Viking defense. Yeah, non-existent. So I could see, Mac Jones having another 370-yard day in another dome, just in a different city. So I've got this more as a shootout than anything. I could go either way on this, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Raiders. They're sort of like, I don't know if you texted. I had somebody text me that the Raiders are a lot of fun to watch.
That was not me. That was not me.
So I don't know. They're entertaining.
Dave, by the way, whoever texted you that, you need to take them out of your phone quickly.
I'm going to hunt it down and find out. Anyways, all right, Mr. Hoiseths, I think we've got through the top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week 15.
It seems like this show went on for like an eternity.
No, it did. But it was highly entertaining at times.
Yeah, at times.
Yeah. at times. Well, we're all about allowing yards, Brad. So that's what we're all about. Any final comments you want to make to extend the program?
Well, I named my 18th year in a row now where I've named a national champion in junior college football. So I wore my business shirt, JCGridiron, tonight, and just want to say congratulations to the fellas up there in San Mateo, the Bulldogs, who won the JCGridiron Dirty 30 national title today. I named that. They had a stunning win in the state title game on Saturday. Played Riverside City College, who's become kind of a national power in a rain and windstorm, and Riverside just didn't show up at all. San Mateo whooped them 55-0. And so, hey, congrats to the Bulldogs. Tim Tulloch, the head coach, good stuff up there at San Mateo. Their first ever Dirty 30 national title. So I want to just give those guys a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah. Congrats to the Bulldogs. They're literally like 25 miles away from where I'm at right now. So and
an incredible history there, by the way, for people that don't know much about community college football. It's the home of John Madden. I think Bill Walsh spent some time there. Julian Edelman. The list of former players and coaches and stuff that have gone through is really impressive. And so a lot of people don't know that stuff. So yeah, it's a good little shout out.
Speaking of that, well, I'll leave you with this. So I had forgotten that Julian Edelman went to that JC. Yeah, he was really, for 6-7 years was he was Cooper Kupp, for those of you that don't remember Julian Edelman. I mean, he just retired, but Julian Edelman has done really well for himself post NFL. He's in Verizon commercial. You've made it, Brad, when you're in an Aflac or a Verizon commercial. That's the cornerstone of it all. He's also in his second year on Inside the NFL. And I remember watching the first episode last year that he was in, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this Julian Edelman on sports television. And then, as the year went on and we got towards the end of the year, I got it. I understood, why he was going to be successful. He's fantastic. If you haven't seen Inside the NFL at all this year, just for the Julian Edelman pieces, it's absolutely worth it. All right.
Edelman's one of those guys that Bill Belichick took. He was a quarterback.
Oh yeah.
I would say he was a quarterback and played Division I football somewhere. I forget if it was Ohio or somewhere in the Midwest, or Akron maybe, where he was a quarterback, and then Belichick drafted him, made him a wide receiver, and the rest is history. The guy had a great career, and I would argue that they haven't been the same team since he retired.
Yeah.
There's a couple other guys there that are pretty good too, but I'm just saying.
I love it. All right. Well, compliments to Edelman. On that note, want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's Gods of Odds. It's week 15 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoiseths over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBopp in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.